We're so happy you can join us today. We're here for a conversation with Abby. So we decided to create a series given the surge in interest and the noticeable increase in wildlife during the recent stay-at-home COVID-19 pandemic. We happen to have a birder and photographer extraordinaire on staff here at the library. Abby has shared many of her stunning bird photos on social media, and it seems only fair that she shares her tips and newly acquired birding knowledge with us today. Looking at a few media articles, we can see how birding has taken off as a perfect hobby that ensures social distancing while allowing folks to get out and about and enjoy friendship, photography, and nature while learning more about the world around us. An article from the USA Today from May 14th shows that Google searches for birds reached an all-time high in the US, and searches for best binoculars for birding have spiked 550% since March, according to Google Trends. Downloads of the Merlin Bird ID Wizard app from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology were up by more than 133% in May, compared with the same time last year. In an article by Alexander Ellis, we hear that bird watching has surged in popularity this year, and according to the Cornell Lab of Ornithology again, birders set a world record on May 9th for Global Big Day. This is an annual bird spotting event. Participants used the lab's eBird platform, and they reported more than 2 million observations, the most bird sightings documented in a single day. They recorded around 6,500 species. So let's get to our conversation with Abby. Hi, Abby.
Hi, Colleen. How are you?
Good, thank you. So let's see. A while ago, when you got into birding and you started sharing your photographs on social media, that was during the COVID time. Can you tell us what got you interested in birding?
Well, I would say I sort of stumbled into it. I was getting more and more into photography and also trying to get outside more into nature. And when you're out and about, what do you see in the woods or whatever? You see a lot of birds. And so I just sort of started to take bird photos. Then I sort of realized that I needed to change my equipment a bit to accommodate it. Birds are often far away and moving. So it didn't start out as a goal to become a birder, but it's been a great byproduct of enjoying photography and nature. So that got me into it.
Oh, so identifying birds seems to be a challenge. And there's so many things out there. How do you learn what birds you are looking at and how to find them?
It's actually really hard. We all, I think, know some of the regular ones we see in our yards or grew up with, but really, I think photography helps me because I'm able to have a record of what I saw, and then I can really spend some time studying it. But just, in general, a lot of people, particularly when you're starting, I would say it's a good idea to actually have a physical bird guide with you. There's also some really good just pamphlets that are light to carry. You start to figure out there's so many details you need to look at to figure out what you're seeing, and when you speak to an experienced birder and explain a bird, they'll say, oh, did it have a ring around its eye? Did it have, they'll ask you a million questions. So you just start to learn what details are important. So I would say just a good old-fashioned guide that you can take with you. There's some great apps out there. You'd mentioned Cornell University and the Merlin app. That saves me all the time, and it gives you a lot of information on the birds. And if you have a photo of the bird, it can help you ID it, which is a good starting point. Sometimes if you're not even sure where to start looking in your book, Merlin can really give you some good direction. Also just, having a little network of friends, you can say, I had no idea what I just saw. Trying to bird with experienced birders is, amazingly helpful. I learn something every time I go out, but learning the birds, it's a challenge, but it's actually really fun. And it sort of gives you a goal when you get out there to either try and find a new bird or master what you have, like, sparrows. There's so many different sparrows that,
Okay.
subtle.
So now you told us how you identify birds. Okay, so we hear a lot of beautiful bird song. Can you tell us anything about the songs, how to identify or find the birds from the tunes
Yeah.
you're hearing?
That hasn't come very easily for me. There's a few I can get. There are, we've heard, and we're going to learn more about a certain app. I believe it's called BirdNet, that apparently is really accurate in helping people identify bird songs. So there are some apps for it. You can also practice their CDs. I think our Hoopla that the library offers has actual birdsong audios that you can practice with. But it's a challenge, and one bird can have multiple calls, and sometimes they don't seem to have any similarity at all. So that's a whole skill set. I'm starting to pick up on it a bit. Some people, again, have, I think, a real gift for it. But I would say I'm kind of waiting on the songs a little bit. I think I'm more interested in visually being able to ID them. And as the songs come, it'll be helpful. Some friends who are really good with songs, we get out of the car and they're like, oh, there's a yellow warbler. Oh, here's this, this, and this. And they're able to figure out where to spend time. Like if something's a very common bird versus an uncommon bird, that they can tell just by hearing it, you kind of know which direction you want to go off in. You want to probably explore the less common bird. So I look forward to learning the bird songs, but that's a whole other, I'm still new enough that isn't there yet. So, but it's a great skill.
It definitely seems like a challenging skill to acquire, that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so what can you tell us about bird photography? Take us through what you know and how you got there.
Well, I would say as a technical photographer, I have a lot to learn. And again, which is part of the fun to me, always trying to get a little better. I really started out thinking like, oh, I want to get photos of birds in flight. BIF, they abbreviated. And I quickly learned it's considered one of the hardest things you can do in photography. It really is challenging. You need just the right light. You need the right touch. You need the settings, like you do for any photo. But birds in flight is very challenging. Some of the best advice I got was just go to the beach and shoot tons of photos of seagulls, or gulls, excuse me. I'm going to get in trouble for that. They're gulls, they're not seagulls. Because generally they're not like a high value photograph. So you're not going to say, oh my God, I can't believe I missed that. You're going to just practice. So I went from birds in flight, which I still practice a lot and try hard. Sometimes I get them, to, probably taking more stills. And the still photography is actually sometimes harder than it looks because if you do it right, you've really captured a moment in time. You've really frozen the bird in a time and place, and it's very sharp. But certain birds move constantly, like they're always flitting about. And so to get that frozen shot with that clarity is a big accomplishment. And sometimes it seems like, oh, you just walk up and you take a picture of the bird. Some birds are very cooperative like that. Sometimes it's because they're territorial. I always like to say like, oh, they're posing, but they're not. They're just maybe being territorial, or maybe they're not too concerned. Those birds that are really fast and always moving are a real challenge. So I guess part of it is trying to make it look easy.
Well, you do make it look easy. Your photos are excellent. It looks like you just walk up and there is bird sitting and you got the shots and off you go. Really nice.
Every once in a while, but no.
yeah, you got some good ones there. So you once mentioned to me that there's a difference between birding and being a bird photographer.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about this?
It's interesting, and it's kind of fun. So if you're a bird photographer, and you're out with a birder or a bird watcher, someone who's not into the photography piece, you might come across a bird and everyone's got their binoculars out. And I usually start with my binoculars, then sort of move to the camera, sort of depending on what I think is going to happen. And, so a bird watcher might be really satisfied with, seeing this beautiful bird. It's singing, it's doing all these great things. And then as a photographer, you're looking at the same thing and you're going, there's a leaf in front of its eye. So you're like, you're like, you're excited to see it, but you really need that leaf to be gone. And so I think with photographers, a lot of time you'll hear them going, 1 inch, go, move, come on, just move to the left, just give me, move a little, give me that, So sometimes it's harder to be satisfied with the view you've gotten as I think a photographer sometimes than as someone who's just, purely in the moment enjoying what they're seeing and not trying to capture it. So that's a big difference, and a photographer might want to set up for a bit to get the right shot. So, you can stand there for an hour versus, a birder might be satisfied in a shorter period of time because they're not trying to capture it. And they're ready to move on. So sometimes you can get that,
So when you go out, do you go out with bird photographers or do you go out with bird watchers and just hope they're going to be patient and put up with you a little bit?
Both. So my bird photographer friends, we get it, and if you're walking and you're just like, shh, you just know, just stop everything, and that's for all like sort of birding. Just go with what your friend sees and stop. So I try and be courteous, and once I get a shot, I'm happy with always try and if you think someone else doesn't have that same shot that might be good, try and bring them over, be like, oh, come here, I think this is a better angle or a shot. So again, that's a little different when I go out with people who are birders and not photographers. I think they're generally happy to let you get your shot because they usually end up enjoying them. But sometimes people get a little impatient. But again, usually there's that self-talk of like, come on, just move. Which is more important if you're taking a picture than if you're just looking. So
So now tell me, I've seen some of your pictures. I've seen birds of prey with something in their talons. I've seen you birds flying. I've seen birds look like they're chirping. What is the picture you most proud of, or was the most difficult to get that you remember?
They do start to blend in a little bit. I know one photo that sort of made a difference for me was a Swainsons hawk, which are common out west and pretty rare here. I was told maybe once every 10 years. And wow. So that was at Lighthouse Point in New Haven. During Hawk Watch, and later in our series we're going to get into what the Hawk Watch is and learn about that. But I was sort of off to the side and another photographer was there and he said, oh, look at that, and we thought it was something different. I thought he said, oh, look at the northern harrier, and at that point I couldn't identify anything, and we just started clicking away, and then the group of birders who were observing sort of marched over, looked like almost an angry crowd coming over. And then we realized they were saying, did you get it? And it ended up being a very, again, very rare for this area, Swainson's hawk. And the photos were nice and, people were very excited. And so that was kind of a cool thing to get something that rare. And I do think, and when you do get like a raptor or something that's just caught something, like, there's, an unfortunate side to that, but it's also kind of cool because you've really captured their essence. This is what they do. They're hunters. Right. They capture something. So it's just, every day, hopefully I get a shot that I'm like really excited about. So
Abby, can you tell us where, what places you go to for your birding? I obviously there's stuff along the shore, and then there's more Greenland or inland. Do you have any suggestions of places that are really great for somebody starting out as a birder?
Yeah, I would say, I live in Fairfield, so that's sort of my, my hub. I would say the Audubons are all wonderful. And there are so many more conservation areas and such out there than I realized. It's really extraordinary the amount of open space and such we have. I kind of think of everything as developed around here or whatever, but it's kind of extraordinary. I really enjoy, traveling a little bit. Bent of the River Audubon up in Southbury is a lovely spot. You see a lot of diverse things. Right here in Fairfield at Larson Sanctuary up on Burr Street, I've seen some wonderful things. hawk watch that we talked about up in New Haven. You get to see some stuff. That's cool.
And then,
just,
then,
yeah.
then I'm going to carry on that. So now we've got a few places. So somebody who wants to start out, do you recommend they just go by themselves to these places and you will meet birders there? Or do you recommend joining a group or,
Yeah, I didn't, yeah, I mean, there are some great groups out there. I think Autobahns and those type of organizations are a great place to start. Right now, a lot of them are doing online webinars that are a great place to start for people. I started out sort of hiking on my own and again happened into the birds, and then happened into some other birders, and sort of have created a network. New Haven Bird Club is a very well-known organization, and there's a few others in the state. So I think part of it depends on who you are. If you're someone who likes to be solitary, but definitely getting together with a group or meeting other people will help you, I think, maybe gather up your skills a little faster, because you'll have some people to look to for help. There are some wonderful Facebook groups that are great for beginners, because you can, post questions, you can, post your photographs, people will help you with identifications. So it tends to be a very supportive community. So
thank you.
That's nice.
Well, this sounds really great. And with that, the next coming up, Abby's going to have a conversation with Matt Bell. And Abby, is he the educator at the Connecticut Audubon?
He is the Echo Travel Coordinator. He's also just an extraordinary birder. So he's going to have some great advice for people and insights. And so I think that'll be really interesting for people, especially people who again, want to get started for birding. And where I'm coming from right now is the best time, my favorite time of birding is the first 2 weeks of May. And that's just passed. And that goes back to migration, like you had mentioned. That's when the warblers, little songbirds basically come up from South America or wherever they were smart enough to winter. They travel thousands and thousands of miles on their little wings. And around those first 2 weeks, and usually there's a few earlier and a few later, they come to the area. So like I would say, even though we're just in June now, to start getting ready for migration next May. So that's sort of like the Super Bowl, World Cup, World Series for birders. So
good.
Yeah, so get started now.
So Matt's going to talk about that as well.
Yes,
and then I also had a wonderful conversation with Joe Warren from Wild Birds Unlimited in Darien, and he's going to let everyone know how to attract birds in your garden. Very simple, normal, easy things to do to make your garden a beautiful haven for birds. And then, of course, Abby will be speaking to Steve Mayo. He's the coordinator of Hawk Watch at Lighthouse Point in New Haven.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us today, Abby.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your insight. And I think you're going to just show us a few pictures now.
I am. So I'm going to attempt to do something here on Zoom where I'm going to just share some photos I've taken in the past couple of weeks just to sort of close this out. So anyway, so I'm going to hit share screen. So you're going to see something a little odd for a minute. And then just enjoy the photos. So anyway, yeah, so we'll be talking more birds, and let us know if there are topics you're interested in. And thank you, Colleen.
Thanks, Abby.
Okay.